Gabe, just to kick it off, if you could please tell us how you started in this business, what brought you in it, and maybe a little bit of what's been happening before and how you ended up in the insurance industry.
Yeah. So for sure. And it's so funny that you'd ask that because I hadn't talked about it in a long time, and I was just telling someone last night. And it is a like a funny story. So I had gotten into the insurance industry because I had a few friends that were doing well, that were making decent money part-time, and I had just gotten my master's degree and really loved the work I was doing. And but there's not a lot of money in it. I got a ministry, degree, and so you don't go into that for the money. So I just wanted to do something part-time where I could make a little bit of extra income and give to things I cared about, and still, give all my time, to what I love. So I got into the insurance industry, and I got with another company, so I won't say the name. And man, I hated the culture. It was really, it's something that's used a lot, but I think I can honestly say it was like a toxic culture. And it was really, people clawing their way to the top. And we were captive agents with a very limited amount of products. And I didn't like it. And I was making decent money, like I wanted to, but I wasn't, definitely wasn't happy there. So I left, and me and my partner now, Caleb, he stayed, and we were at truck stops, just flagging people that went by, and this guy stopped him and was like, "Hey, what's your compensation?" And we never been asked that before by like a truck driver. And he's like, "Oh, it's like 60%." And the guy's like, "Oh, well, my buddy is trying to get me into insurance. He says he's at 100%." And Caleb was like, "No, like we have the highest commission like in the industry." And so he gave him a Family First Life video, and Caleb watched it, immediately called me, and was like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I was like, "This isn't real. It's a scam." I don't, no way this is real. How could they be paying so much? And I was, on Indeed, I was on Glassdoor, looking it up, and I was messaging people on Facebook, that said they worked here, trying to figure out if this was legit or not. And we Googled it, and we found your office was the closest one, to us. And so we called, and COVID had just hit. So you didn't have anybody in the office. And so we called like 20 times and left like 7 voicemails. and, obviously finally got a hold of you. And, Caleb, and I was out of town, Caleb and Sam went to meet you, and you told them that you had written $700,000 a month. And I was like, this dude is a liar. Or like had written $700,000 last year. I was like, there's no way that's true unless he shows you, um, bank statements. And of course you did, and sent them to me. And so we were like, well, let's give it a shot. And then, it's so funny too, because I got back in town, we went to your office, and you kind of gave us the whole pitch for like some of the different products. And you were like, all right, let's call some leads. And the very first person you talked to was like, you had like a stack of leads. It was an age lead. You booked it. It was like 20 minutes away from where we lived. Caleb ran it and sold it for like 2 or 3,000 AP. And like so it felt so not real. I was like, this like is like, but like at one point I had to ask, I was like, how many people could possibly be in on it? Like, is this guy he just called, this lead, is this guy 20 minutes away from where we live, is he in on it? Like, I was so untrusting from where I came from. And then so I bought leads, and I went and I sold, and I had a couple grand hit my account. And so I told Caleb, I was like, Caleb, this is real. And he's like, yeah, Gabe, I know. Like he was already like done with me being so like suspicious. So that's how it started, man. Just about a year anniversary now. just April of last year, 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was interesting. Well, first of all, learning point here, get on Google and get yourself, if you're running even a home office, get yourself a Google listing, right? So if you just, I mean, this was, out of this world experience for me as well, where
Yeah.
nobody's really banging our phone day in and day out to get a hold of us saying we want to learn more, we want to work here. It only happened just a few times, but that was it. I remember connecting with Caleb, and he goes like, "Are you in the office?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Are you gonna be there next hour and a half?" I said, yeah, I'll be here. He's like, "Okay, wait, don't leave." So and him and Sam came here. So it was crazy, and yeah, I mean the whole experiences, and then again, nobody asked me for my bank statements, but I've definitely seen that Caleb's definitely serious. He brought other people in the office, and I'm like, you know what the heck, why not? I'll just show you my bank statements, and that's how it all started. But yeah, I definitely remember that, and happy anniversary, by the way, Gabe.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been what a year it's been.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So there's more to come. It's just the beginning, but uh, you know, interesting you said that, because most of the people that at least I have experience working with that come on board, they're just not necessarily, you know, not liking the culture of where they at. They're just not making money a lot of the time. So you guys, it seemed like you were making some money, but you said the most important thing was the culture. So how is the family first life culture different compared? Well, we don't really want to compare, but still, I guess it was a new world for you. What impressed you the most about FFL culture? What's right off the get go, and you're like, wow, that's totally different place. That's the place where I want to be. That's the place where I want to sell and build.
Sure, sure. Well, I want to highlight it just from my personal experience. I know like we're not trying to compare, but just I am gonna a little bit. So the culture, obviously, I was at 60% commission, and someone was at 130, 140, at the top. So, the owner of the agency. So that means that, for every sale I made, you know, someone was making just as much, if not more, off my, sales than me. And I mean, there were no leads, it was completely cold market. I mean, I'd be sitting outside of a hot or cold truck stop, waving people completely by, and just like trying to get business, and working really hard. And if there were any leads, they were like years old, and they weren't really even insurance leads. They were just, we had someone's name and phone number, pretty much. And so not much of a lead. And the attitude of the people, of the managers at that company, was really like, you're privileged, like, to work here. And like, it was not good at all. Like, they weren't giving you anything. And you're independent contractors, and they're demanding so much of you, and have no right, to demand. Well, flip over to here. Here we are. I'm a week or two in. I hit my first dial day really hard, and I think I had my first like legit full dial day. And I had 14 appointments, the next day, and I had like, 3 or 4. I called from 8 to 8, and I had like 3 or 4 or 6, something like the day after that. And I was really nervous, starting off the day. And I called you, and you really built me up, and you're like, "Hey, Gabe, I'm not gonna let you fail," and gave me a ton of support. And you really did, man. I mean, I called you, you answered in every single house. There were times you gave me appointments, there were times you gave me, leads, just a ton of support. And so that really impressed me. I was like, hey, this is a culture where, if I am just like, obviously just myself being a person of faith, like I want to do right by everyone. but it impressed me so much that if only I was doing what had been done to me, like if I treated people the way that you had treated me, then that would have really pleased me. Like I would have been happy doing that. Like if that's all I was doing. So props to you, man. You did it right.
Well, I mean, here's the deal, Gabe. Like it didn't start with me, number one.
Mm-hmm.
So I was helped like a lot,
Mm-hmm.
in the early times and later, So I mean, I morally felt, just obligated, pass it along, pass it forward,
Mm-hmm.
just that was the very, I guess, natural thing to do, because you're like, okay, so there's people out there, in the company that's doing something you don't expect them to do, you never asked them to do, but they just want to help. And that
Mm-hmm.
impresses you so much that you just want to replicate it and do it again and again and again and again. So,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, man. But on the other hand, it's also, the way it works is you're an independent contractor. When you set with the other place, they were demanding so much of you. We're not demanding anything of anyone here, and the only
Right.
reason, that what I wanted to help you is because you were raising a hand and saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm willing to work hard." And I booked 14 appointments. Like if you booking 14 appointments for the following day and some more for the day after, so you essentially booked like almost 20 appointments in your first legit dial day. I mean, what choice do I have? Not take your
Mm-hmm.
phone calls? That's, what I'm saying? So it's like,
Right.
it's like when we can all say, yeah, that the system's amazing, but we have to also start with us and saying, okay, nothing's good going to happen if we not realizing it, that, we have to, start with ourselves. And that's really it, because there's, I'm pretty sure, Gabe, that if you didn't book, that many appointments, it doesn't really matter how much I wanted to pump you up, how much time I wanted to give you, nothing good would have happened anyway. So it's all you,
Right.
man. So you get to write your history here. You get to own your success here, which is amazing. No, and it truly feels like independent business owner, right? So, but
You really
anyways,
are.
and yeah, and it's good, man. So those were early days. And how did your first 3 month go? Because we all say, like, you won't see, results for at least 90 days. If you put the time and effort in right now and the money in right now, you're not going to really see real results within 90 days. But what did the first 90 days look like for you and the company?
I mean, I definitely saw results. In my first week. I mean, I remember technically started, on a Monday, but I was really, I was getting just, and I said that was my first legit dial day because that was the first day that I had enough leads to go into an actual dial day. Before that, the week prior, I had bought like a batch of 20, Facebook leads. I did that Monday and then I did that Thursday. And, I didn't have all my contracts in yet. So I went out and I had some people that I could only write AIG with, but I didn't have AIG yet, and then, I had one on, I remember you told me I had one, it was a good size. It was like 120 a month, Americo Eagle, and it approved him all the way until the end, and then, like I said, he passed underwriting. And at the end, it was like, hey, this person doesn't qualify. And you told me like, hey, that happens one out of a million. And for a minute, I remember thinking like, is this guy bullcrapping me? Does this happen all the time? But legit, that didn't happen for another month. But then that first, then that about I had my first sale that Sunday, about $1,200. It paid off all my leads. And then the next Monday, I was like, all right, let me go at this how they say I should go at it. And then I hit it. And then I wrote 7K over that Tuesday and Wednesday when I actually listened to the way that this should, be done. I had plenty of leads. I really set myself out, and I was making right off the bat more money than I had ever made. Just that very next day, having $4,000 deposited in my account from 2 days of work. I had never experienced anything like that before. And you did a good job of pumping me up, because, you know, a week or two later, I wrote 5K in a day, and you're like, ooh, 5K in a day, ooh, that's the stuff, man. and but you know, I would say the first 90 days, something that I just had a real trouble listening. I have always been one of those people that I've just been very strongly opinionated. And even though I try to be humble and say that, you know, I'm teachable, I think I feel like there's always this thing in the back of my head, almost that I can't control, where I feel like I know how to do it better. And so I think I took all the advice I got from the training and stuff like that, and I believed it part way. So my first 90 days were very up and down. You know, I'd have a week where I would write, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10K, and then I would want to chill, and I wouldn't listen to like the way should. I had the most money in my account I ever had. So I took a week or two off, and then I would get back to it a little bit. So my numbers were real up and down and all over the place. And obviously then you start, you know, experiencing, you know, I didn't have a good flow of leads, you know, so I would always have to think about it every time I bought leads, and that was rough. So I would say that first 90 days was real up and down. And then right towards the end, I finally got to the place where I really bought in. And then that's where I started consistently hitting my numbers. But that first 90 days was kind of all over the place. Not that I wasn't making money, but just that, you know, I was hard-headed.
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing here also, Gabe, is that this is you know, I'm sorry, I just had to decline this call. Basically, it's all about trust as well, right? So you said
Mm-hmm.
something, this guy like fooling me here, is it really all the time they're going to be declined? I know how traumatic your experience was with the other company, where you submit them, get paid, and get a chargeback because they didn't get approved. So I mean, there's probably a million thoughts that was going through your head. You know, what allowed you to probably get always getting back on track, because you were surrounded by a lot of people you knew who was you know, killing it out there too. So which is easier, but a lot of it, what you're saying, is also, it had to do with the trust, right? You needing to trust the system, trusting that, you know, the system works, and this, you know, everything we have here works, and it's all legit. So I mean, that's now, like, it's just like that for everybody, and it's hard to trust, you know, especially if you've been in the game. But
Yeah.
yeah, and as far as consistency, that's good. I'm assuming if I ask you a question about what is it, the one thing you would have changed, you know, in this first 90 days, would you say that you would have taken less time off and being more consistent, or there's also something else that you would have changed?
You know what? I think my answer would go into that, but I think what I would have done right off the bat is I would have put in regular lead orders right away, like substantial, like right when, because kind of like you hear a lot of different trainings, you know, you do well doing, you know, with a certain amount of leads, with a certain amount of lead spend. And then obviously as time goes on, you get better. So you try to do something that's a little clever, and you try to spend less. And because you're better, you can spend less instead of making and setting and make the same amount, you know? And so, but that puts you in this real up and down, because at the end of the day, regardless of what your skill level is, it's all about how many at bats you're getting, you know, and the more people that you have that are requesting insurance that you're going to talk to, the more you're going to write, regardless of your skill level, whether or not you're really good or whether or not you're really bad. So I think what I would have done is, right when I saw that first surge of money, instead of still trying to spend 500, 600, $1,000 on leads, you know, to write 10,000, I would have just put in 1,500, 2,000 right away, right when I could afford that, and just you work those leads every week, because that would have forced me to be consistent. You know, if
100%.
Because when you're spending money, you're going to go to work. Like, I'm not going to, regardless of how much money you have, you're not going to put $1,500, $2,000 down a week and skip work for a week. You're going to go to work. So I think that's the big change. Instead of trying to outsmart the system, I would have just put in a regular lead order, right? And I have that now. I do that now and I don't even think about it, but I think I would have done that sooner. That would have helped just about everything, to be honest.
Absolutely. So yeah, we just, I guess we do have to trick ourselves into it, right? Because it's hard, right? So if you're not like, how can you get, consistent? How do you jump on the phones every dial session? That's the answer. Just buy leads, just buy leads, just buy leads, just buy leads. And I couldn't have said it better. Like who's in their right mind would put a lot of money in the leads and not work them? It'll get uncomfortable. It'll get you uncomfortable. You'll jump on the phones, and that's gold, man. So I love this. I absolutely love this. I mean, that's really the only secret to this job, right? Just keep buying leads and you'll figure it out. Would you agree with that? I know you see a lot of managers promoting this hashtag and brand on social media, saying just buy leads, just buy leads, just buy leads. Is there, do you think that's really number one thing for this business, or there's something else?
I mean, no, it's definitely the number one. And I think it's a law of success with anything. If you just put into a regular routine and make the thing that you don't enjoy a non-negotiable, the easier activities will come naturally. Because I don't think, for most people in this industry, like, it's enjoyable going out and helping families. Like, for the most part, like, obviously we've all had a rough day in the field where you just meet some difficult people or a bunch of tire kickers or something like that, that just wanted to quote. But for the most part, like, I love going out and helping families and meeting people that, like, I really like, and seeing people's empathy and love for their own family members and the way that they're thinking about them. Like, that I love that. But I don't like buying leads. I don't love the phones. but if I buy leads, I'm going to hit the phones, and then that makes going out and running appointments easy. Like I think about it this way. I'm not going to talk too much, but say this one thing, because this is the way that I think about it. I have a couple friends, one friend in particular, that is a professional bodybuilder, huge guy, really big, competes, all those things. And he will tell me all the time, he's like, the hardest part about bodybuilding is eating. Because he has to eat a crazy amount of food every day. And he's like, most of the time he doesn't enjoy how much he has to eat. Like, he'll sit down and look at all this food he has to eat and just be like, and just does it. But he never misses a workout. He enjoys the workout. And he's like, I'm never going to eat so much food and not go work out. He's like, because that's the work of it, sitting down and having to consume 3,000 calories, in one sitting. He's like, I'm not going to do that and then not go hit the gym. And I kind of think about that this way. I'm not going to spend $2,000 on leads and then not hit the phones and not run business.
All right. Well, we're definitely going to jump into the phones next, but you said that everybody enjoys the field and the appointments and the families they help. What is the absolute craziest thing or the funniest thing that ever happened in the field to you?
The craziest or the funniest thing?
Something. Give us something. What is it? Or maybe your best experience in the field ever?
Oh man, I haven't had too many crazy experiences. I would say one that was real funny is, it was when I was working all final expense, and I remember getting to this lady's apartment, and and I think I had just watched a video on training. Like, I still do now, but back then all I was ever doing was listening to training in the car. When I was going to bed, I'd have a phone, with training, staring at it, sleep, listening to training. And it was about mirroring people and their energy and that. And I remember she answered the door just screaming. She's like, "Who is it?" I was like, "It's the insurance guy." Like, I yelled back, and I got in there, and this lady was just at an 11, and she was just like, "What is this? I don't want this." I was like, "Why'd you put in the request?" And then, like, the whole time, like, we pretty much had like a 4-minute conversation that was like at an 11. Like, not like I was like being mean, but that was just the way she was talking. So I was giving her really short sentences with the same energy. And she was like, "That's too much." I was like, "Well, that's how much it costs. You want it or not?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so she went and grabbed the check. And so I had like a
Hilarious.
5-10 minute sale just yelling, with this lady. And so that was a crazy one. But I've had so many good experiences. I don't know if I could highlight just one. I love sitting with, you sit with a lot of couples who are going maybe into their senior years and have um, experienced some rough times, either personally or with their family, or seen people go through it. And you see a lot of young families, newlyweds, maybe they're just getting in their first home, having their first couple of kids. And for the first time in their life, there's that natural switch of life isn't all about me. Now I have these other people that I really need to care about, and, explaining to them the coverage and going through the emotion of what situations loss would be, and just seeing how genuine and how much love there is, in a home. Like, you just walk out, sometimes there's so much, everybody wants to hear the negative. It's so big in entertainment, it's so big in media, it's always sensationalized, and it's so easy to think that that is like the overwhelming vibe or feeling of our world. And it's just not true. There's so much love and compassion and care in our world. And so I love those meetings where you just walk out with your faith in humanity just built up a little bit more, and just seeing that. So I've had so many of those meetings, and that's what, and I just walk out of those meetings like, hey, I walk out of this great feeling. I just really helped somebody. And I also just made like $2,000 in an hour. Like, there's absolutely no negative, about what I do. Like, I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, what's not to love? But yeah, those, yes, every in home is different. Yet, you get to learn the pattern. Obviously, we're gonna definitely jump into your little bit of your in home. So, but yeah, what we do is important. It really flat out feels so great
Mhm.
to help all these families. I can definitely relate to that. All right, man, let's just switch gears a little bit. Let's go back to the part that most agents don't enjoy, the phones, right? So now that you got, you were getting your leads, and some, in the beginning you were getting less, then you were getting more leads. But what changed once you started, let's say once you started getting more leads and you were spending more money? So what did it change for you on the phones, like, and what is your overall approach? If you can just kind of give us the brief few sentences on for all these agents that would be watching this podcast, what is going on? How do we figure out the phone? How do we learn to like the phone, or is it possible at all? How do we deal with the phone, like outside of leads?
I mean, I would say so. Well, I'll address what you said there at the end first. I mean, outside of leads, I mean, for me, a big part of the phone is the leads you have. Obviously, when I was starting, I didn't have a whole lot of money coming to this industry, so I couldn't spend a good chunk on a large amount of like fresh, like the best, leads with high intent. I was getting a lot of second chance, a year, 2 year, 3 year old, several month, internet, and throwing some Facebook in there too, which are fresh but a limited amount, and generally speaking, a little lower intent than some other type of leads. And so I was overcoming my inadequacies with just a lot of time, to book those, like we were talking about, those 12 appointments the next day, and then 6 the day after that. I was just on the phone from like 8 to 8. I was just I back then I didn't have the dial tracker sheet, so I wasn't able to, you know, but I mean, I must have made at least 5, 6, 700. It was a crazy amount. I was going for $50 an hour, and I was following that, so because I had heard that. So it was just work. I wasn't good. I didn't like it. I was not new to sales, but I was new to the phones, and it intimidated me. And I just overcame that intimidation by putting in a crazy amount of work. And then as I was writing more and getting better, I have a fresher, higher intent lead, and I'm better on the phones. So what used to take me 10, 12 hours in a day now is just taking me, a few, 3 hours, and then the next couple of days are booked. And so, and you just get it out of the way. So you can't really outthink it, and I've listened to 100 different phone scripts, and the variations are so small. Most of the times, like, you just kind of find one that you like that's working for you, and you just put in the work. And I mean, you really got to just to make a decision for yourself that sales in general is you're dealing with rejection, and the phones is like the biggest part of that, because it's way easier to reject someone over the phone than it is face to face. So I've had people who were super rude over the phone that I booked, and they're the nicest, sweetest lady I've ever met, or like a really, they love me. They're walking on the phone. They were like, "Oh no, we don't want this. We didn't ask for it." And I was like, "I just gotta, come out and solve the file." And they're like, "Oh no, well, why do you have to come out?" Da, 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 da. And then by the time, I'm leaving their home, they're like, "Oh, Gabe, thank you so much. You've done so much for us. Da, 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 da. You're our grandchild. Do you want to come to the picnic?" All this stuff. So you just gotta overcome it. It's just like to me, I was using that bodybuilder analogy. It's the eating. It's that part that no one is crazy about. It's uncomfortable for everybody, but it's the biggest in its own way. It's the biggest part of what we do. You just got to do it.
Yeah. By the way, that was a weird analogy. Not a whole lot of people can relate to, because everybody's like, "I can eat some more." No, I mean, I can always eat some more. So, but I get that. I get it. Yeah, definitely. It did the job. So, all right. Well, yeah, and let's talk about building. I know you're building a team. A lot of it is a war market. So,
Mhm.
and it didn't seem, and I know it's different, because every time I talk to you or Caleb, like, and I think it's more Caleb, that you guys kind of sharing with me the challenges of dealing with a war market, and things like that, that it's different than the cold market. And I'm like, I always can't really relate, because I'm like, I would like that. I would like that. I mean, and like, a lot of what we've built here is with the cold market on the other hand. So everything works. But if we can
Mhm.
just dive into that, what made you say, yes, I wanna share this with other people, and what's your outlook on this business in general? Why building a team, Gabe? And I know you're in the different level now, I guess. In other words, what I'm trying to say, let's fast forward to now, from the year ago, where you went through your
Mhm.
first 90 days, just were crazy intentional on the phone, like blew through all the challenges,
Mhm.
and basically learned in home. We're on the trainings all the time, learning, right, plugged into the system. So, and then something clicked, and you said, "Okay, I want to also introduce some other people to this business." So if you can just kind of fast forward, to now, what the business, what does it look like for you now? So you running an agency, and why are you doing this more than anything?
Um, I mean, as far as getting warm market in the first place, it was just very natural. I was making the most money I'd ever made, and I had some friends that I knew were either had been or were already in sales. I had a friend in real estate, a friend selling pest control, a friend, selling lawn care, all making, 50, 60, 70, $80,000 a year, nothing crazy, people that were sharp and capable. And I'm just blowing it out of the water. I mean, my first week, I was like, hey, I think I found something gold. Let me try it out for a week. And then I'll tell you about it. And then I was sending them pictures of my bank statements,
Mm.
look, like this is what I did. This is what I spent. And this is what I made. And, I mean, and maybe a little more dramatic than that. I remember the first time I had my biggest sale. I think it was actually a lead you gave me too, and it was I'll never forget the guy's name, Robert Pinto, and it was $5,000 AP sale, and I remember calling some of my friends, and I was just like running around in a circle. I was like I was like on FaceTime, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I just made $5,000, $5,000," and and so, there was some hype there for my friends. They knew I was legit. And, I wasn't going to tell them something that I didn't believe in, and so that was easy. But fast forwarding to now, where we do have a ton of cold market. I mean, we had 15 new recruits on our call today that were all cold market. And it's become more simple. It's funny, you think it would be more complicated, but it honestly has become more simple than it was back then. Because when you have a lot of warm market, you care so much, about them being successful because you know them. And it's hard to face the reality of whether or not they're successful is on them. Like, kind of like you said, like you could have given me as much help and support. You could have even bought me leads, at the bat. But if I didn't hit the phone, if I didn't dial, if I didn't put in the work and I didn't go out and see people, if I didn't have that drive, I mean, you weren't telling me to watch the training all the time, I wouldn't have. And uh, and so I just have that with people now. I'm just like, look, man, like you're not my employee. Like, I'm not going to tell you to work. We have a system. It works here. You can reinvent the wheel if you want to, but just know that I'm probably not going to be able to help you if you do that. Like, because like we have a system, and I know how to coach people to be successful in that. Like, so my advice to you would just be follow this, do this, and if they want it and if there's drive, they're going to make it happen. I don't think I've ever been in another situation where I really believed if a person really wanted to and just went to work and gave it their all, that really just about anybody could be successful doing this. And so that has helped me help things be way more simple, in this business. And sorry. And my drive, my why for wanting to do this is the same as it was when I got in the insurance industry. I went to college, to be a minister. I got my master's in West Africa, serving with the missions team. And while I was in my other insurance company, I ran a youth ministry in Southside Chicago. And I love seeing God work in people's lives like he's worked in my life. And I always want to be a part of it. Something that this opportunity has given to me is, me and Caleb and Joe were able to start an orphanage with that team of missionaries in West Africa. And you gave to that. Thank you so much. And I never thought, going to be a minister, the kind of money you make, it's not a lot. And I never thought I would be in the financial position to give to that kind of thing, to be substantial, or a substantial amount. I thought it would just be manpower. Like, if I was going to be a part of that, it would be me there doing it. And so, and then me and Caleb were able to he grew up in the Dominican Republic. His father's a missionary there. And we got to visit just a couple of weeks ago and invest in their ministry as well. And so that's my why. the amount of money I'm able to have in my bank account now overwhelms me. And I'm not like, I remember having, the most money I've ever had in my account, going and buying a new pair of shoes and then going to Chipotle and getting guac on my burrito. And I was like, I don't know what else I'm going to do with all this money now. Like, this is it for me. So, so that's my why, just being able to continue to invest in those things that God has put on my heart, and to be able to do it with a company and with an opportunity that in itself is a blessing to so many people, in the way that we protect people's families and what we get to do for our agents, help them realize. One of my best friends, shout out to Sean, who's killing it. He came into this with a little bit of debt, in the late summer of last year, and by January called me kind of with tears in his eyes and just been like, "Hey man, like, I just paid it all off." And so to be able to invest and do in those things I care about, and to also, and the very vehicle that I'm using to get there is helping so many people on the way. Like, it's an incredible blessing. It's so huge. I mean, I'm not trying to say my life is perfect, but it's pretty good.
Wow, you just said a lot there. Gabe. I mean, it's like, if I'm gonna try to dissect it, it's like, I'm not even gonna try. I'll be honest with you, but I guess what I'll say is, this it just, I mean, I agree. I mean, it did change, so many lives, and it doesn't stop here. It's, before us, it will change so many lives after us. The question is how much of the impact we get to make on a daily basis, and how much we get to share. It's just amazing, man. But I'm pretty sure that's not the last time we're getting you on this podcast. I'm looking forward to the next time to continue expanding, on what what's coming, what you see out there. But man, I mean, you grew so much in the year, man. So it's like, it's an honor and privilege to have you as a business partner here, and it's been an incredible journey. So happy for you, for your family, for everybody you taking care of, for your agents, because you truly do care about them. I can definitely testify to that. You do care about people. That's why you're winning at scale, man. So that's for sure. But if you want to just give us a parting shot, Gabe, and we're gonna wrap up this first episode of your biography here. So we're gonna keep growing, man.
I guess a parting shot would be, man, just so much in this job is your mentality. You're going to hear that so many times. And just tell yourself, like, give yourself a real chance to be successful. Some people I see, the first time they hit a roadblock or something difficult happens, like, if my first week had been their first week, they would have bought, a couple small batches of leads Monday and Thursday, like I did, and not wrote anything right away, and they would have given up. They wouldn't even have made it to that first sale Sunday, or that next dial day where they wrote 7K over the next 2 days. So give yourself a real shake at being successful. Don't make excuses for yourself. Don't tell yourself why you can't do it. And when you do that, when you take the excuses off the table for yourself, you will find a way to win. And you're going to be devouring training, and you're going to be going to work on the phones, and you're going to be helping people out. So that's what I would say. Control your mentality. Give yourself a real chance to win. Don't give yourself excuses.